Welcome to Spine Chillers, where we delve into the darkest corners of horror and mystery. I'm your host, Eden, and today we're diving into a case that has haunted the whispers of folklore for generations. Buckle up and dim the lights, because this story will send shivers down your spine. Our case today is about Eden's gates beneath the iron fence. The year was 1987. Nestled in the rolling hills of upstate New York was a nondescript farmhouse that had become the epicenter of a burgeoning phenomenon. Its architect, Elias Thorne, a charismatic former theology professor with a messianic gleam in his eye, preached a doctrine of spiritual renewal. He claimed to have unearthed a purer form of Christianity in forgotten scriptures. His congregation, a motley crew of disillusioned souls, found solace in his words, a balm for their wounded spirits. Among them was Jessica Moore, a young woman searching for meaning after a bitter divorce. Her eyes, once filled with the despair of loneliness, now held a fervent light. She would later confess in a hushed whisper to a detective, "He spoke to me like no one else ever had. It was as if he could see the darkness within me and offered a way out." The farm, renamed Eden's Gate, became a sanctuary. People sold their homes, donated their savings, and surrendered their lives to Thorne's vision. Children were born and educated in the ways of Eden's Gate. A self-sufficient community emerged, growing its own food and generating its own power. It was a world unto itself, shielded from the prying eyes of outsiders by a high wrought iron fence. But shadows began to creep into this idyllic facade. Whispers of strange rituals and people disappearing without a trace started to circulate among the locals. Yet fear was tempered by a pervasive sense of otherworldly sanctity. Eden's Gate, they believed, was a place where the world's evils were banished. One evening, Jessica approached Elias after a sermon. "Jessica, Elias, everything you say makes so much sense. Why can't the rest of the world see it?" Elias looked at her with kind eyes. "Elias, the world is blinded by sin, Jessica, but here in Eden's Gate we can live as God intended, free from corruption." The summer of 1992 brought a chilling revelation. A young woman named Rachel Turner, once a bright-eyed member of the commune, managed to escape. She described a world of psychological manipulation where individuality was crushed and unquestioning obedience was the ultimate virtue. She spoke of bizarre ceremonies held under the harvest moon, involving chanting, bloodletting, and a strange, intoxicating drink brewed from local herbs. In an interview with the local sheriff, Rachel trembled as she spoke. "Rachel, they said we were chosen for a higher purpose. They told us we'd be reborn into a new realm, but people were disappearing. They weren't being reborn." Sheriff Johnson leaned forward, concern etched on his face. "Sheriff Johnson, Rachel, can you tell me about the rituals? What exactly happened?" Rachel's voice dropped to a whisper. "Rachel, they made us drink something. It made everything feel unreal. Then they'd chant and there'd be blood. So much blood." Local authorities, initially met with resistance from the fearful townspeople, eventually obtained a search warrant for Eden's Gate. What they found was a scene out of a horror movie. The once verdant fields were scarred with fresh graves. Inside the farmhouse, a labyrinth of hidden rooms revealed a macabre collection of human remains. One of the most haunting discoveries was a series of journals belonging to Elias Thorne. Filled with cryptic symbolism and disturbing drawings, they offered a glimpse into the mind of a man consumed by madness. There were passages about a cosmic battle between light and darkness, and about human sacrifice as a necessary evil to usher in a new age. Detective Michael Harris, the lead investigator, couldn't shake the images from his mind. How could anyone do this? He muttered to himself, flipping through the pages. His partner, Detective Linda Shaw, shook her head. It's not just one man, Mike. He manipulated all of them. Look at these entries. He truly believed he was doing God's work. Medical examiners determined that the victims had suffered horrific injuries consistent with ritualistic abuse. Some had been mutilated, others bore the marks of animal bites. Toxicology reports revealed traces of a potent hallucinogenic drug in their systems, aligning with Rachel's description of the ceremonial drink. The most disturbing evidence, however, came from a series of grainy videotapes found hidden within the farmhouse. They depicted a nightmarish ritual performed under the harvest moon. Dozens of commune members, their faces contorted in ecstasy or terror, participated in a frenzied orgy of violence. At the center of it all was Elias Thorne, a demonic figure wielding a ceremonial knife. The climax of the ritual was a scene of unimaginable horror. A young woman, her identity unknown, was sacrificed on a stone altar. The video captured the moment in excruciating detail, the desperate struggle, the cold glint of the knife, the final gut-wrenching scream. When the authorities stormed the farmhouse, they found Elias Thorne dead, a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. The commune had scattered, leaving behind a desolate landscape, and a mystery that continues to haunt the minds of those who dared to look into the darkness of Eden's Gate. Rachel Turner, the woman who escaped Eden's Gate, became the face of the tragedy. Her life after the commune was a constant battle with PTSD. Nightmares haunted her sleep, filled with the shadows of the rituals and the faces of her lost friends. In therapy sessions, she described a world of psychological manipulation where individuality was systematically eroded. In one session with Dr. Evelyn Ramirez, Rachel's voice trembled as she spoke. They told us we were special, chosen, that the outside world was a place of sin and corruption. We were isolated, fed a constant diet of fear and dependency. I believed I was doing something important, something sacred. Dr. Ramirez nodded sympathetically. Rachel, it's important to understand that you were manipulated. None of this was your fault. Many survivors struggled with guilt and shame. Some had participated in the rituals, others had turned a blind eye to the abuse. Their lives were shattered, and rebuilding trust in the world was an arduous process. Detective Michael Harris, the lead investigator on the Eden's Gate case, was a man haunted by the horrors he had witnessed. He spent countless hours poring over the evidence, trying to piece together the puzzle of Elias Thorne's twisted mind. He was a master manipulator, Harris said in an interview years later. He preyed on people's vulnerabilities, promising them a sense of belonging and purpose. It was a classic cult playbook. As the investigation progressed, a chilling picture emerged of a carefully orchestrated system of control. Members were stripped of their identities, their possessions, and ultimately their free will. The commune was a prison disguised as a utopia. Forensic pathologist Dr. Eleanor Carter was tasked with examining the victims' remains. Her findings were as gruesome as they were revealing. Many of the victims had suffered prolonged torture before death. There were signs of starvation, dehydration, and extreme physical abuse. Dr. Carter sighed as she looked over her notes. The level of cruelty here is beyond anything I've seen. It's as if they were trying to break these people in every possible way. One particularly disturbing case was that of a young girl named Lily. Her body showed evidence of ritualistic mutilation, suggesting a level of cruelty beyond comprehension. Dr. Carter concluded that the cult's practices were rooted in a dark, occult ideology. The Eden's Gate case had a profound impact on the community. The once quiet town became a symbol of evil, a place people avoided. Property values plummeted and the local economy suffered. Years later, the farmhouse still stood, a decaying monument to the tragedy. It was a place of pilgrimage for the morbidly curious and a constant reminder of the darkness that had once lurked within its walls. The case also sparked a nationwide debate about the dangers of cults and the need for stronger regulations. Laws were enacted to protect vulnerable individuals from being lured into such destructive groups. But for the survivors of Eden's Gate, the healing process was slow and painful. Some found solace in religion, others in therapy, and still others in activism. They became a voice for the voiceless, working tirelessly to prevent similar tragedies from happening again. The children of Eden's Gate were perhaps the most tragic victims of the cult. Born and raised within its confines, they knew no world beyond the commune's barbed wire fence. Their reality was a twisted, distorted version of childhood, where innocence was sacrificed at the altar of a warped ideology. One such child was Sarah Thorne, the daughter of the cult leader. Raised in a gilded cage, she was groomed to be her father's successor. From a young age, she was exposed to the darker aspects of the cult, indoctrinated with the belief that she was destined for greatness. Her childhood was a solitary existence, filled with long hours of study and religious instruction.
Elias, why do people say we're different?
Because we are, my child. We are chosen by God to create a new world, a pure world.
There were others, like Danny and Lisa Turner, siblings born into the commune. Their memories of childhood were a stark contrast to Sarah's privileged upbringing. They recalled a life of deprivation, both physical and emotional. Food was scarce, medical care non-existent. Their days were filled with endless chores and religious indoctrination. They were taught to fear the outside world, to see it as a place of sin and corruption.
Do you think we'll ever leave this place?
I don't know, Danny, but I hope so. I really hope so.
As they grew older, the children began to question the reality they had been presented with. Some, like Danny, developed a rebellious spirit, challenging the cult's authority. Others, like Lisa, retreated into a world of fantasy, finding solace in books and daydreams. When the commune was raided, the children were left adrift, their lives irrevocably changed. They faced the daunting task of reintegrating into society, of learning to trust, to love, and to live independently. Many struggled with the trauma of their experiences, haunted by the shadows of their past. Sarah Thorne, in particular, found it difficult to adapt. She had been raised to believe she was superior to others, destined for a life of power and influence. The collapse of the commune shattered her sense of identity.
All my life I was told I was special. Now I don't know who I am.
Sarah, you are special, but not because of what Elias told you. You have your own strengths, your own path to follow.
In a counseling session, she broke down in tears. Her counselor, Dr. Evelyn Ramirez, reached out to comfort her.